Hello there, and welcome to episode 20 of the Unqualified Opinion Sports Podcast. I'm your host, as always, Marco Yerkovich. Thank you for joining me, and as usual, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and leave your own unqualified opinions in the comments section down below. Also, if you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to check us out on Spotify. The link is in the description down below. With that, it's time to welcome in our usual panelists to the podcast.
Hey guys, it's Will Byron. Proud to announce that we are now up to 40% rugby participation for the podcast crew.
Let's go.
You're next, Jared.
And I'm Tim Seipel. On today's episode, we'll have a discussion of Kobe Bryant's life and legacy, give our Super Bowl preview, our reaction to the NBA All-Star Game starters, and much, much more.
Don't forget to leave your thoughts on Kobe's legacy in the comments section down below. Tell us your favorite Kobe moments, and just any story you have about Kobe Bryant, we want to hear it.
All right, so yeah, with that, we're going to get into today's episode. Firstly, with the discussion about Kobe Bryant, his legacy, who he was. So let's start off with who Kobe Bryant was as a player. Your guys' favorite memories of him. You know, let's just have a discussion here about Kobe.
I was so crushed to hear what happened to Kobe and his daughter and everybody else on that plane. It really was with me for, it's still not entirely over that.
Still feels like a dream.
It was a really tough first 2 days especially. And always remember, I cheered against him so much, Mavericks fan, and he would get you. Any chance he got, he would take it right to your team. He'd stick a dagger in them. Kobe Bryant he was not in the business of losing games, and he would not give you an inch. He was the ultimate competitor.
So Kobe Bryant, he's a 5-time NBA champion, a 2-time NBA Finals MVP, 2008 NBA Most Valuable Player, 18-time All-Star, 11-time All-NBA First Team, 9-time All-Defensive First Team, 2-time scoring champion. The list goes on and on. His accomplishments are ridiculous. Tim, can you help kind of put into perspective how great a player Kobe Bryant was?
I mean, it in a word, I mean, he was just overwhelming. He was dominating. He was a player that would not give up and would go his hardest throughout. I mean, one of the memories that I have from him is when you have, I believe it was Matt Barnes on the sideline passing in the ball, and he reaches out and almost tries to like hit Kobe with it, and Kobe doesn't flinch at all. Like,
yeah,
he's
the no
the
flinch
game.
pass.
He's in the mode.
I'll
And
never forget tore his ACL, and everyone thought he was going off, and he limps on back out there, and he shoots his free throws. He makes them both. He gets off the court.
He also did that when
insane.
he tore his Achilles, too.
He was insane.
Yeah, and that, I believe when he tore his Achilles, they were down 2, and it was 109-107 to Golden State, and he made both with the torn Achilles, which is an insanely painful injury. So, you know, it just goes to show his Mamba mentality, his ferocity. I believe that will be really what Kobe is remembered for, is his Mamba mentality. We'll never have a player with this tenacity and passion and love of the game, and he'll be remembered as one of the top players to ever play in the NBA.
If you look at the reaction from young players, especially from Trae Young, Devin Booker, Luka Doncic, Joel Embiid, all our guys in our age range, like none of us were ever around to see Michael Jordan play. Or play in his prime. I guess he had a couple of years when we were like 2, but Kobe Bryant he's the perfect gap between LeBron James and Michael Jordan. So many of the guys who are in the league now idolized him more than any other player growing up. And just, it was incredible and kind of heartbreaking just to see all their tributes to him.
Yeah, because like you said, for a lot of people, he was the guy. If you look, I say we'll be releasing a Kobe Bryant tribute monologue shortly, probably after the release of this episode, within the next few days at least. And I say that he helped usher the NBA into the internet age and helped expand the NBA into a global audience and a global sport. And he really did that. But when you look at post-Jordan, you might have said that Tim Duncan or Shaq was the best player. And then at some point, 2010s, the late 2000s, LeBron takes over. So there's not necessarily a great amount of time, like a whole decade like Jordan had, where Kobe was the best player. but it was for sure that the 2000s, the most iconic player is without a doubt Kobe Bryant. So with that, I want you guys to share some of your favorite Kobe Bryant memories, just shots, things he did, just things that you remember about Kobe.
I really remember his last game when he scored 60. Just madness. We knew it was going to be his last game, and I didn't expect him to score that much. He'd spent so many injuries, just kind of bogged down by injuries. I kind of thought he just wasn't really going to be able to play that well. And he just went off, and he showed everyone he still had it. He relentlessly attacked the rim. 60 points is ridiculous for any player in any game, much less a 39-year-old guard coming off 3 devastating injuries. It was absolute insanity.
Yeah, and to speak further into that, I mean, on Monday night, ESPN aired the 60-point game, his last game ever played, and you really see the connection he had with his family too. But I mean, in the beginning, they were talking about how he started off 0 for 5, and there was just kind of this anxiety in the crowd that, is this really how it's going to end? Is this how his legacy, his career is going to end on this game where he's going 0 for 5 and it's not looking any better? And then he just went off. He did what Kobe always did, and he really played out, which I loved that. And I also loved the moments where, he would just with that fadeaway. It was so nice. It was crisp. It was swish. It was Kobe, and I think Kobe will be remembered every time a basketball hits the court, every time someone hits a fadeaway, every time somebody tosses trash into a trash can. Kobe will be remembered.
He is that relevant to us culturally, because when the tragic news broke and you see it on everyone's social media, whenever there's a bunch of people posting about sports who I know aren't necessarily as into sports, I'm like, okay, way to grab onto a headline.
But that's also when you show it's truly iconic.
I think about it, and it's like Kobe meant so much more. He wasn't just a basketball player. He was one of the defining people of kind of our whole generation. And if you look at what he did off the court too, he wasn't just a basketball player. He spoke a ton of languages. Like 2 weeks ago, or 2 or 3 weeks ago, I remember Luka Doncic was surprised because he was about to shoot a 3. And then he hears someone taunting him in Slovenian. He turns around. It's just Kobe smiling at him. He won an Academy Award.
Yeah.
He wrote a
Kobe,
poem. He's a renaissance man.
Oh, yeah, yeah. And, it really just speaks into it. He had a career coming outside of his NBA career.
Yeah.
That
wasn't the end of his legacy. Basketball
because of his work ethic.
He transcended basketball.
He's one of those rare people who, if you knew anything he wanted to do, he would put in that work.
He would
become one of the best at it.
Anything he did, he was going to succeed. And it really shows the impact that he had around the world, where a lot of people that I follow on Instagram who I didn't know would be like sports fans of Kobe or maybe the NBA, and maybe they aren't. They posted on their stories, about Kobe and just paying their respects, which was really cool to see that a lot of people did that.
Yeah, so the idea is that Kobe, he is not just a basketball player. He became a cultural icon. He entered the American socioculture. He truly is a pop culture icon. He will be remembered as a basketball player, as an Academy Award winner, as a champion, as an MVP, as a father. He is, obviously probably the first famous death of 2020, and it's really tragic. He's gone too soon, but Kobe Bryant will be remembered for a lot of things. Obviously primarily a master of the NBA and of basketball, but he's truly one of the great human beings that we've lost too soon. So we're going to move on to the NBA All-Star Game, something that Kobe was an MVP of 4 times and participated in 18 times out of his 20 NBA seasons, which is ridiculous to think about, that 90% of the seasons that Kobe played in the NBA, he was all-star quality.
And he had quite a few injuries over his career, too.
Yeah.
To be fair, part of that was that he was so beloved in all parts of the world. Even if he was hurt, that fan vote, get him in every time, and his impact incredibly global. He pioneered last thing I'll add is he totally pioneered the way that modern teams and players approach relations with other countries. Because he went to China, he learned Mandarin, and he marketed there like no one had before.
So we're just going to really quick run through the Western Conference starters, the Eastern Conference starters. We'll talk about if you guys have snubs, and then we'll get into a broader discussion of maybe if the selection process bugs you guys. But Western Conference starters, guards, we have Luka Doncic and James Harden. Then forward center, we have LeBron James, who's the captain, Kawhi Leonard, and Anthony Davis. Any quick thoughts on the West starters? I think they got the right 5 guys. Your thoughts?
I mean, I definitely think they've gotten the right guys. I mean, if you look at Kawhi, though, I mean, he has been injured for quite a few games, and AD has been injured, but I think they got the right guys. The only person that I can see sitting on the outside that could have been a starter is, I believe it was Nikola Jokic. I think he has had a fantastic season, and he's a reserve player, but I think he could have fit in there maybe over one of the other guys. But overall, don't have an issue with this.
Will, your thoughts?
Oh, I was so happy to see my boy Luka.
I mean, it was pretty obvious he was going to get the nod.
It wasn't a doubt, but it's like this was deserved. He was really close last year with the fan vote and just coach vote in general. Didn't make it in, but no, it's awesome to see my guy in there. You can make an argument for Jokic. You can make an argument for Dame, but they got the right 5 guys.
All right. Well, then moving on to the East starters, if we have no qualms about that, I assume we're going to have a few more issues with the Eastern Conference starters.
Many qualms, Marco. Many qualms.
At guard, Kemba Walker and Trae Young. Forward and center, we have Pascal Siakam, Giannis Antetokounmpo, who is the captain, and Joel Embiid. Thoughts?
I mean, for me, it's a good lineup. It's not a bad lineup, and it's nothing against the selection process. But I definitely think Jimmy Butler was snubbed.
Big time.
Big time. I think he definitely should have been in there over maybe Embiid or Siakam. It's all about who they pick and who essentially is put in that position, and maybe even a popularity.
Well, I mean, we'll get into this in a little bit here after Will has a few more takes, but it does speak to an antiquated system of the guards, forwards, and centers, how you have to select certain numbers of guys, and certain guys are certain positions. We'll get to that in a second. Will, your thoughts on the Eastern starters?
Well, look, first thing is first. How is Jimmy Butler not a guard? He's played point guard for most of the possessions.
He's labeled as a shooting guard by the Heat.
He's a shooting guard for the Heat roster, but he's the primary ball handler for most of their games. Secondly, are you kidding me with Trae Young? No hate against Trae. He scores a lot. He passes a lot. He might be the worst defender in the Eastern Conference.
Statistically, he's third worst in the NBA overall in most categories. James Harden's actually a pretty solid defender, but to back you up, he's the third worst defender in the league according to PER.
Yeah, he's not a good defender.
He's terrible.
He's a terrible defender.
The Hawks third are really worst bad. In the league.
The Hawks are really bad. You can name a lot of guards who I think when I was writing my All-Stars down, I had Trae Young in there as a wild card. I think Ben Simmons is better. He hasn't been. You can make the argument he hasn't improved his game much, but
which he hasn't.
He's a great defender. Kyle Lowry's been playing some really good minutes for the Raptors. Kemba's the only guard there who really truly deserves it.
Yeah,
but Jimmy Butler should be the other guard. I think love Siakam being in there. Love Spicy P.
Oh yeah,
one of my favorite players to watch. I'm glad he's in there. But there's quite a few guards you can make a really good case for over Trae Young. I don't think he should have been starting at all. You can make an argument like guys like Bradley Beal, maybe even Brogdon have a more deserving case considering the actual impact they have on their team, because Trae Young's, he's the kind of guy you want to see in the All-Star game. He's going to light it up.
He would make it as a reserve, though, obviously. It's unnecessary to make him a starter when your team is 15th in the Eastern Conference behind the Knicks. I do think, like you said, I think Bradley Beal had a case. I think Malcolm Brogdon, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum all had cases. But I do think we did speak about one of the guys from the Heat, Jimmy Butler, getting snubbed. But I do think Bam Adebayo was snubbed. Joel Embiid has not played for a handful of weeks now. He missed games earlier in the season. Bam has been consistent. He's been solid. And the team is, I think, now third, if not second. They go back and forth, Boston, Miami, and those top teams in the
argument always
East.
Will be that at his peak, when he's healthy, Joel Embiid's going to be Adebayo.
Right.
But we got to look at production, and you got to look at the amount of games they played. So
right.
It's the same argument with Kawhi.
You can't focus on name
AD.
recognition.
Adebayo and Embiid is like, that's a toss-up.
But
You got to get a little nitty-gritty to figure that one out. But Trae Young over
That's an
Jimmy
easy
Butler.
Or
No.
Bradley Beal even.
I mean,
Or Lowry.
to a certain extent.
oh God, don't put Lowry in the All-Star.
Oh, Kyle Lowry's totally an all-star.
It's a
He
tragedy
has
in the
been
league that he's a
performing well.
5-time All-Star. It's pathetic.
No.
Kyle Lowry's a good defender.
That's a bad take.
It's a
I'm
pathetic
sorry.
state on
Kyle
the Eastern
Lowry-
Conference.
Kyle Lowry is like the definition of what you want in a floor general. He's not going to wow you with stats.
He's
but He makes
trash.
his team so much better. That's ridiculous, Marco.
He's trash.
That's ridiculous.
In the left corner, we have Will Byerman, and in the right corner, we have
Marko
Jurkovic.
Jurkovic, the Croatian sensation.
You know it.
Oh, let me-
Well, I'm just not a huge fan of Kyle Lowry and his play style. I just think that there were other guys that could, and obviously the reserves will come out sometime in between this recording and the release of this podcast. I just hope that young guys like Malcolm Brogdon and maybe Tyler Hero, somebody from Miami, maybe one of the young Boston guys or Philly guys, gets a spot in the All-Star game when they really deserve it. Chris Middleton, he had a 51-point game the other night.
Made a
He'll
statement.
probably make it as a reserve.
I'm seeing a lot of Eric Bledsoe love actually, and
Why?
hear me out. First of all, he was all defensive team last year. He's a really good defender. The Bucks are playing really well, and as long as your team's winning, there always is going to be that argument that you deserve more All-Stars. Middleton's, I think, super underrated. He earned it.
He is underrated
He's
because
earned
he
it
has
by far.
Giannis on his team. That's why.
People
That's
assume he
a
can't
crucial
do much
point.
because of Giannis, but you have to understand. I said it last week. It's going to take a very specific kind of co-star
A very
to play
specific
with
set of
Giannis.
skills.
Exactly, because Giannis is going to dominate so many aspects of the game. You need a guy like Middleton who's going to play amazing defense. He's going to give the ball. He's going to be a good passer. Middleton can distribute.
More
He can shoot
shooters.
well. He's a good shooter. He does everything you need to play well alongside Giannis. And again, when we saw him play solo, which I do think he's one of those guys who kind of like Scottie Pippen, for all his greatness, always did seem to thrive when he was that second option. Middleton's a better second option, but as he showed us last night, worthy all-star and the man can flat out ball.
I'd rather have a shooter. I think the Bucks would be infinitely better if they traded Chris Middleton for like CJ McCollum or like Bradley Beal.
He's better than McCollum.
He is better than Mo.
Yeah, but McCollum would work better in the system. You need to shoot. You got to surround Giannis with shooters.
Middleton's
CJ McCollum,
super
Bradley
efficient.
Beal.
Middleton is a big part of their
so
defense.
efficient.
Like,
He's
how
such a
much
is.
would you
defender.
give up
He
to
is,
get more
but you could just
offense
get
on
some
defense?
generic 3-and-D guy like Marcus Morris to fill
It's
in that
easier
spot.
said.
I'd rather have a
it's
shooter.
pretty difficult to get those kinds of guys, though. If you look at the draft, that is the position that is currently at the highest premium.
It
right
is.
now.
It's the most important
It's really
position.
hard to get those 3-and-D guys, those versatile wing players. Middleton can do all that. McCollum can't really. He's an okay defender. He's not as good as Middleton. He puts up more points, but Middleton does it far more efficiently. Stop disparaging the good name of Chris Middleton, Marco. You've had this anti-Middleton rhetoric for far too long, Marco.
Weeks.
He's the ideal co-star for Giannis Antetokounmpo.
I mean, we can say that, but I don't know if maybe it's not even Middleton. It's something about the rest of that Milwaukee roster. I know it seems weird to complain about a 6-loss team.
Lopez.
Yeah, they need some.
Brook
they
Lopez
need more.
isn't shooting well at all.
They need more.
They would have been so much better off if Mirotic hadn't retired.
He didn't retire. He went to Europe.
Retired from the NBA, Marco.
All right, fine.
He
could come back. He
He's-
could come back.
That's in. The one thing I heard though I know Stephen A. Smith talked about it was people were kind of like saying he took the coward's way out or whatever. You have to realize though, I mean, he lived in Barcelona, Spain for so long. That's a beautiful city and a beautiful part of the world, and he was very comfortable there. I mean, who wouldn't rather live in their home than go to Milwaukee in the
Right.
winter and play basketball and get like inconsistent minutes? I don't fault Mir. By the way, looking at Kyle Lowry's stats, they scream all-star.
I mean, that's an opinion. But more specifically,
Stats are facts, not
Stats
stats are facts.
Ask Paul Hires.
But it's all it is. But it's all about the context. But shifting more to the selection of the players, do you think that they need to go away from the positional aspect? Seeing that we watch and an NBA is played of a positionless basketball, kind of speak to that. Do you think we need to alternate or change that at all?
I'm on the fence there because on the one hand, we are very positionless basketball at this point, but on the other hand, it does provide really helpful guidelines, I think, for fans to vote players in. And I think for one thing, I really love the current process where you got the fan vote, the writer vote, and the player vote, which keeps things in check. I remember.
Yeah, I don't think the voting is the problem. The voting isn't the problem.
My sophomore year was the first year they did the coach player. They split the vote up like that. And if it was not for that year, Zaza Pachulia would have been an all-star representing the Dallas
Real
Mavericks.
goat right there.
Oh, I wanted that to happen so bad at the time, but like looking back on it, like how weird would that look if you're like on Wikipedia, who was an all-star in 2016? What, Zaza?
Who's that?
It's like when you find out there was a couple Bulls centers back in the 90s. I think it was Armstrong.
Maybe.
Or someone. There was a couple guys who got elected all-stars for the Bulls
I
by
don't
the
think
fan
so.
vote, just super randomly.
I think BJ Armstrong, the point guard.
There's different.
Maybe.
You get
Somebody
really
Google it. Tim, your thoughts on this selection process? I think we've kind of come to a consensus. The voting is actually pretty well distributed between fans, players, and coaches.
In check finally, because
they are.
As fun as it would be to
the
see
fans
Taco,
are crazy though.
As fun as it would be to see Taco,
we are pretty crazy.
Or Caruso play. At the same time, is that really the best?
That's disrespectful. Yeah, that would be disrespectful. My quick take on this is I think the only problems with the All-Star game are that it's dictated on West and East. I think that's antiquated. For one, I think we should get rid of the conferences in general. I think travel is fine now. Just let the 30 best teams play. Obviously, the 30 teams play. The 16 best teams make the playoffs. And pick the 30 best players to be in the All-Star game. A roster has 15 players, yet an All-Star roster only has 12. What's that all about? So that's what I think is wrong. I think we need 3 more players per team. Don't care about the conferences. Tim, your thoughts on any other issues? Also, I don't care about the positions.
Yeah, I'm kind of on the fence as well as Will. I think the conference breakdown is probably outside of the All-Star game.
Yeah, that's a broader picture on the problem with the league.
Yeah, for sure. But I mean, I think to a certain extent, having the guidelines is good for people who are voting. Just because you can get a mixture of players in that, and some players like. I wish Jokic got in, but he didn't. And, it's just...
Should be about the 5 best players, though. Isn't that how we play in the modern NBA? I think it should be
the best players in the position. Like, you're going to need a center out there. You're not going to go with
what power
5
forward
guards.
do you pick? Well, Derek Favors?
Are you going to go with 5 guards on the court at all times? I mean, it's all about kind of popularity, and I think the guards are the most popular position, or maybe...
I believe LeBron James is a small forward.
And,
Kawhi Leonard is a small forward.
LeBron plays whatever he wants. Kawhi plays whatever he wants. Going back to what I said earlier, you're right. It was BJ Armstrong, but he was like kind of the prime example I always heard of. Like, it was during Michael Jordan's retirement saga, and the Bulls were like, we need an all-star. And BJ Armstrong, 14 points, 3 assists, isn't that bad, but like, not all-star
NBA
numbers.
champion.
But they were just like,
Armstrong.
You know what? We're going to make him an all-star. And they've done that a couple times. It's good they held the fans in check with the vote. I kind of wish that the coaches' vote mattered a lot more, though.
All right, so I think we've come to a consensus here that there are problems with the NBA All-Star Game. We want some things fixed, some things to stay the same, but there are a lot of issues, a lot of things wrong with the NBA All-Star Game. So let's move on to the Super Bowl preview, and with that, we're going to welcome in Paul Hires to the podcast. Let's hop right into this. Let's get into a deep dive analysis of the game, what we think is going to happen, what we think are going to be the biggest factors. So first off, I want to have a discussion with the 3 of you guys. I'll just lay it out there for the 3 of you guys, and I'll just let you guys pick. Which offense do you think is more potent?
I mean, it's hard because both offenses are one-dimensional. One's one-dimensional towards the run, the other one's one-dimensional towards the pass. And when you're down in a game, you're not going to be wanting to run the ball as much as you pass. And I think for that reason, the offense of the Chiefs has more weapons and can be more efficient, especially in any situation. I think the Niners can struggle when they get behind. And for that reason, I think the Chiefs' offense is the most potent.
All right, Will, your thoughts on the most potent offense?
I agree with Tim in a lot of ways there. However, I think Jimmy Garoppolo has been entirely underrated. I'm not saying he's elite.
Thank you.
Tim, I'm not saying he's...
Tim has taken off his headphones. He's leaving the room.
Tim's doing some weird dramatic Tim stuff. But look at it. People were complaining about how he barely threw the ball. It's not like they were like, oh, Jimmy Garoppolo's terrible. Let's avoid throwing the ball as much as we can. Their running game was just so dominant. There was no reason to. And he's got Emmanuel Sanders.
They just don't need him.
He has the best tight end in the league.
Put in Jacoby Brissett, and they do just as well.
Jimmy Garoppolo is going to play better. He's an above-average quarterback. I'm not saying he's anything great.
Yeah.
But people are entirely forgetting how...
What has he done to proven that he's an above-average quarterback?
I mean, he led a team to a 13-3 record.
He led a team, or Kyle Shanahan led a team? It's his run scheme and his defense that led him
is
to
a factor.
13-3.
However,
do you know his stats?
What would their record have been with Jameis Winston or Marcus Mariota? I'm not saying he's a Pro Bowler,
I'm not saying
but Jimmy Garoppolo is a solid quarterback.
He's solid.
Right now, right now, he's a game manager. Let's be honest.
But he's not going to lose.
But you can't say he's an above
He's a game
average.
manager.
He's not going to lose.
He's
games
above average.
He passes 8 times in a game.
That was pretty impressive that the offense didn't even need him to pass more than 8 times in a game.
Why would you pass the ball when you can just run behind George Kittle and the 49ers O-line against the Green Bay Packers?
But you can't hold that.
Shout out to Kyle Juszczyk, best fullback in the league.
Fullbacks get it done, baby. But no, you can't hold that against Garoppolo. It's not, you're blaming him like, oh my God, Garoppolo is terrible because his offense is so good at everything
I'm not
else.
saying he's terrible, but I am saying there's no way to prove that he's above average.
Debo Samuel's going to have over 100 receiving yards. I'm calling it right now.
Nope.
100 receiving yards and a touchdown.
3,978 yards, 27 touchdowns to 13 picks, 13-3 record, 69% completion rating. Nice. But that's an above average. Those are above average quarterback stats.
Slightly above average.
Slightly above average. And that's what we said. We said, as I keep trying to remind you, Tim, you're acting like I just said Jimmy Garoppolo is the next coming of Joe Montana. I said Jimmy Garoppolo is underrated at this point. I think the Chiefs have a better offense overall. Patrick Mahomes is definitely a better quarterback. However, if it came down to the Chiefs having to have a good run game or the Niners having to have a good pass game, I'd take the Niners pass game over the Chiefs run game.
That is the exact point you need to make. I would trust the 49ers passing game over the Chiefs running game. Paul, you're itching to say something. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, and I can kind of see both sides of this. I'm not saying Garoppolo's a bad quarterback. I think he's, once again, you have to do enough on the offensive side to lead your team to a 13-win season. But I am saying that Tim is right when it's a team sport. Team doesn't rely on just the quarterback alone. And I think the 49ers have easily proven that. And so I don't really know if it matters if Jimmy Garoppolo's play is good or not, because it's a team sport. They win as a team. We saw it with their defense earlier this season. But back to the question at hand, you guys are talking about offenses. I think for me, they're not only different on both, once again, heavy run, heavy pass, but I think the Chiefs is one of the most explosive offenses really I've ever seen. And then on the other hand, the 49ers beat you up on the line of scrimmage. They take 8 to 10, minute drives at times, and they really grind out the clock. So very different styles.
Yeah,
of
both
offense.
highly dominant, highly successful forms of offense, completely different attitudes with regards to clock management and how they attack you. That is a great point. So let's flip the coin and let's look at the defenses. Tim, your thoughts on which defense, because really with how potent these offenses are, it's not about which defense is better. Let's be honest. It's who can force the most punts and who can make the most stops. Your thoughts?
I'm going to be straight up. I don't think that there's going to be many punts at all in this Super Bowl matchup. I think it's going to be a really fun matchup, especially compared to last year's Super Bowl. But I think to a certain extent, because the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes have been so good, I think Patrick Mahomes has easily been the playoff MVP so far overall. I think they will be harder to stop. The 49ers have a superior defense, so it's a tough call. But I have to go with the Chiefs offense just because they are more potent and they are there's so much talent just overall. I mean, you go from Tyreek Hill to freaking Travis Kelce to Mecole Hardman to Sammy Watkins. I mean, each of those guys can make plays, and Patrick Mahomes is the quarterback that's going to make those plays as well.
The thing to watch out for, though, is the Chiefs had some weird stretches of the season where, despite all of that, they really didn't get it done. But the thing I'm more interested in, actually, is if you look at their two coaches, both of them have a good deal on the line for this game. Reed's obviously much older, never won a Super Bowl. I don't know. This might be the first one he's been to.
No, this is the second. He lost with the Eagles in 2005. He lost to the Patriots.
Still, though, he's one of the best coaches. I couldn't remember if
he won one as an assistant.
He won it, but
Packers,
as a head coach, though,
he won one as an assistant with the Packers in '96. Yes.
As impressive as his legacy is, as many games he's won, though, he really is still missing that defining Super Bowl win. And then if you look at Shanahan, he's young. He has a lot more time than Reed, but he still does have to deal with the legacy of that 28-3 Falcons meltdown. So both of these coaches have a lot of integrity at stake in this game. So it's going to be really interesting to see how they fare against each other.
Yeah, and for sure, I think to go back to your argument that the Chiefs have had weird stretches over the season, and that's fair, but Mahomes was injured for one part, and also they've been hot in the playoffs. Like, they've been getting hot at the right time, which is the reason why they're in the position they are today. They went on to beat the Texans, they beat the Titans, who the Titans have, before that, were probably playing the best out of any of the teams just because they've beat so many good teams in the playoffs. But I think to that extent, the Chiefs have just been looking better, especially in this playoffs.
Paul, your thoughts on this?
Yeah, and I think the defense for the 49ers will make more stops, but not the way you think I'm getting at. I think it'll make more stops because of the offenses. As I said before, the Chiefs, I feel like, will have more possessions just because their possessions will be quicker, at whether they're scoring or getting off the field because of a 3-and-out. I think the 49ers defense will force more punts just because the Chiefs offense will be on the field more times.
Yeah, I agree with that slightly. I think the true prowess in the 49ers defense, I think we can all agree, lies on that defensive front four, where they only have to send four guys, a four-man front, and they can cause pressure and havoc in under 2 seconds, So that means most of the time, San Francisco can be dropping 7 guys back into coverage. And I'm not saying sorry, go ahead.
Oh, it's going to be important, though, to see how Joe Staley, Kyle Juszczyk, Caleb McGarry, Mitch McGarry, Mike McGlinchey, one of those, like...
There you go. Third time's the charm.
There was 3...
He was going to get to it.
There was 3 of those, there was 3 Mick left tackles drafted in the first round of the last 3 years. It's a lot, man. Come on now. But no, it's going to be interesting to see how those blockers do, because Kansas City's rush, it's pretty solid. Frank Clark especially has been having a monster season, so Kansas City isn't working with nothing on defense.
Yeah, I just think San Francisco, that defensive line is on a different level. Plus, you still have guys like Sherman and Tart in the secondary. They're going to cause a lot of trouble. It'll be interesting to see. I don't think San Francisco's going to turn the ball over, but if Mahomes turns the ball over a few times, that could spell trouble, especially the way San Francisco controls the possession of the game. Now, speaking of kind of areas of the game, positions, certain players that are really going to have a huge impact in the game, I want each of your guys' X factors, one per team. Doesn't matter what side of the ball it's on. For me, I would have to say specifically, it's got to be Nick Bosa for the 49ers and that D-line more broadly. And then obviously for the Chiefs, it's got to be Patrick Mahomes. If he performs on a ridiculous level, no matter how their defense does, I think they could probably outscore the 49ers if he plays a perfect game. Tim, your thoughts on the X factors?
Yeah, so I wrote down 2 apiece, so I'm going to do 2.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. For the Chiefs, I have Patrick Mahomes. Obviously the offense is going to rely upon, how well he is, how well he's performing, whether or not he's accurate. He's been performing at a high level, so we'll see how he does in the Super Bowl, as it is high pressure, and he hasn't been in that spot before. I mean, obviously he made it to the AFC Championship game, but hasn't been in the Super Bowl. And then I also have the Chiefs D, how well they stop the run and if they can. Obviously, the run scheme that Kyle Shanahan has is phenomenal, but they were able to stop Derrick Henry for the most part. So we'll see whether or not they load the box or if they try to. I think the key is to make Jimmy Garoppolo throw. And then on for the 49ers, it's Jimmy G. It's going to come down to Jimmy G because the run is going to be the focus of the Chiefs defense. And if the 49ers can't run, it's going to come down to whether or not Jimmy G can make the plays that he should.
Fair enough. Will, your X factors for the Super Bowl?
Chiefs, pretty obvious. It's going to be Mahomes. But if you look at the 49ers, Pro Football Focus, a tool that all of us revere to a high extent, graded out George Kittle as the best player in football in 2019. Which it's hard to measure. It's of course you can't stack a tight end up the same way you can do a quarterback or like a great edge rusher.
It's not even the receiving yards. It's the blocking, the schematics of how they can use him.
When you look at all their individual stats for everything he does, the blocking, the running, the receiving, he grades out as the top player overall. Again, you can argue that's out of context in ways because it's not as much of a premium position. But George Kittle is third down monster. He regularly leads his team in receiving yards. He's going to be the X factor for the Niners because if they can get Kittle rolling, which is not that hard to do, if Kittle's rolling, the rest of their offenses.
Yeah. All right, Paul, your thoughts on some of the X factors for the Super Bowl?
And to add on that, my two X factors are the two tight ends. I really think this could be the best two tight ends we've ever seen in a Super Bowl together.
Fair point.
Between Kelsey and Kittle. And for the 49ers, I think Kittle is really going to be that energy that drives their passing game. And if they can't get that going in the later stages, they might have trouble maybe coming back or just with 2-minute drills and things like that. And for Kelsey, obviously, he's been the guy they go to in their desperate situations when their backs are up against the wall. They always go to Kelsey, who gets the job done. I would take the over if this was a prop bet on receiving yards for tight ends.
All right, so with that, we're going to move into our weekly pick'em section. And of course, it's time for everyone's favorite mini segment of the show. It's Just the Numbers with Paul Hires. All right, Paul, your thoughts?
Yeah, so real quick, I think I'm gonna start doing a little like last 4-week rundown just to kind of give everyone a trend. So in the last 4 weeks, Jared has gone 9-11. Both Tim and Marco have each gone 10-10, so really kind of slowing down there. And then myself and Will have each gone 12-8 in the last 4 weeks. So you can kind of tell like the trends of things. Tim hasn't done as well in the last few weeks. But that being said, Jared and Marco tied for 4th.
I'm coming for you, farm boy.
Marco has gone all the way back
Watch
up
out
to
for the sheep.
With his only loss last week was when he picked Michigan over Illinois. Tim has dropped down to 3rd at 55-31 overall. Will at 61-32 overall as he's dropped down to 2nd. And I'm back up at the top. It's been a while, but it feels good. 65-33 and 2-2 in college basketball.
All right, so with that, let's get into our pick'ems. First up, it's an NBA game. We've got the Dallas Mavericks at the Houston Rockets, Friday, 7 p.m. on ESPN. Tim, your pick on this one? Even
though it's at Houston, I'm going to have to go with the Mavericks. I think Luka Doncic is going to come in and play his game. And, you know, I just don't think the Houston Rockets will be able to stand up to what the Mavericks will do. So I'm going with the Mavs.
All right, Paul, your thoughts on this matchup?
Yeah, Doncic leading the Mavs in points, rebounds, and assists. I mean, you talk about an all-star. Well, he's on the all-star team. Good for him. And the thing about, even if it is at Houston, the Mavericks actually have a higher winning percentage on the road than Houston does at home. Not to mention, it's in Houston, so it's right there. I'm sure there'll be plenty of Mavs fans there. I'll go with Dallas.
All right. So Jared is not with us, as you've probably figured out. by the lack of sheep puns and things of that nature.
And cheap noises.
And Illinois references, obscure Illinois references. Shout out to Red Grange or somebody else.
Kofi Coburn.
So Jared's going with the Mavs on that one. Will, your pick?
Praise be, hallelujah. Mavs win. You know it.
And whether or not you like this, I'm going with the Mavs too. That means it's a clean sweep.
No, not my boys.
So go put money on the Rockets.
Yeah,
James
Rockets are
Harden's
gonna
going to have a
win.
60-point night.
Rockets are
Russell
gonna win.
Westbrook's going to have a triple-double. It's going to be a mess. We all picked the Mavs.
James Harden is going to shoot 80% from the field.
Now it's time for
Harden will
some...
never shoot 80% from the field. If he has
That's the
60
joke.
points, he's going to shoot like 12 for 90.
And then he's still going to get 62 points on the night. All right, so now it's time for some soccer. Back-to-back weeks with some soccer.
Ole.
What's happening here? Joseph, we need you. All right, so we've got Atletico Madrid at Real Madrid, Saturday, 9 a.m. Various streaming services. Go find it online. Pirate it illegally. You didn't hear me say that. Tim,
did.
your pick.
So I've got Real Madrid over at Atletico Madrid. Right now, Real Madrid has been playing a lot better. And it's interesting, over the past 7 times that Real and Atletico have matched up against each other, 6 out of the 7 have ended in a draw, which is kind of a crazy stat. But at the same time, right now, Real Madrid is playing at a higher level. So I'm going to have to go with them.
Paul, your thoughts, and really quick also, what are we going to do when we encounter a tie?
I mean, technically it's a loss for everyone unless you pick that it's going to be a tie.
Fair point.
So
we should have
there's the
thought that
ruling on
through. All right, that's the official ruling from Judge Paul Hires.
Well, I tell you what, I don't even know what league these guys were in until today. I think they're in the Spanish Primera. Anyway, Atletico Madrid, they're pretty Atletico, but Real Madrid is the real guys. To further back that up, they have 1 loss on the season. So I'll go with Real Madrid.
Jared, always the contrarian, has gone with the Antoine Griezmann-less Atletico Madrid. Will, your thoughts on this matchup?
I mean, personally, I'm holding out hope that this match will be played without Gareth Bale. I'm hoping he's
The
headed
Welshman.
I'm hoping he's headed back to Hotspurs where he belongs. But I'll go with Real Madrid. I don't really follow Spanish soccer. I like English. I like American to a degree, but it's kind of where it ends for me. Support rugby. Support your local rugby club.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm going to have to pick Real Madrid. Of course, I got to support Luka. We talk about Luka all the time, but this is a different Luka, the Croatian sensation, Luka Modric, the reigning Ballon d'Or winner, the best player on the planet. He's going to lead Real Madrid to victory on this one. All right, so with that, we're going to move into some college basketball. Back-to-back weeks of Texas Tech being in the pick'ems. They were ranked 18th, now they're unranked. They're at number 3, Kansas, Saturday at 3 p.m. on ESPN. Tim, your pick.
Texas Tech has been playing a lot of really, really good teams. And they've been coming close, but they haven't been able to finish games. And Kansas has been performing well. So for right now, I'm going to have to go with the number 3 team, Kansas.
All right, Paul, your pick.
Yeah, so I watched that Kentucky-Texas Tech game last week, and it went down to the wire. It went into overtime, actually, and it was a really good game. So I still feel no shame by picking Texas Tech. They played a really good game. That being said, Kansas has only lost 1 game at home this season, and that was to Baylor, who I think is in the top 5, number 1. So there you go, and they're number 3. I have to take the Jayhawks.
All right, well, college basketball expert Mr. Jared DeHaan has picked the Kansas Jayhawks. Will, who do you have?
I want to trust Jared, but I also feel like Kansas can go.
Said no one ever.
Kansas can go. I'll say it.
Hey,
I'll say it anytime.
He's my sheep guy. I definitely trust him.
I trust.
Fair enough.
I trust Jared DeHaan on all matters in life. All matters in life. He's my life coach, basically. Back to basketball. Kansas can go punch for punch. I repeat, punch for punch, chair for chair, with any team in the country. This team, I think they're going to punch out Tech too. That all happened, by the way. I didn't make any of that up. That's what happened.
Jared refused to talk about that on the podcast yesterday. If your only source of sports news is this podcast, yeah, Kansas and Kansas State got into a brawl that kind of got messy, if you want to say that. I have to pick Kansas in this one. Yeah, I think they're the better team overall. Despite the suspensions, I think Kansas can take down Texas Tech, who's been playing really well so far this season. Now moving back into the NBA, we've got a Eastern Conference matchup. We've got the Philadelphia 76ers at the Boston Celtics Saturday, 7:30 p.m. on ABC. Tim, who do you have in this one?
So in this one, obviously it's in Boston. 76ers have been playing well recently, but so have the Celtics. I'm going to have to give the edge to the Celtics right now. This will be one of the very few times that I will vote for a Boston team. Don't like the Red Sox. Definitely don't like the Patriots, but I'll have to go with the Celtics.
All right, Paul, who do you have in this one?
So I think I watched a couple NBA games over the weekend, and one of them was the 76ers and Lakers. And I know they were at home, but the 76ers looked really good without Embiid. And then I took a look at the Celtics versus Pelicans, I believe it was. And they struggled in that
Jason
game.
Tatum will be back.
Yeah. So anyway, not a huge 76ers fan and not a huge NBA watcher by any means, but I just cannot bring myself to pick Boston if they lose. So I'm going to go with the 76ers.
All right, Jared is going with the Boston Celtics. Will, your thoughts on this game?
Yeah. I'm going to take Boston too. I just think Kemba's playing the best point guard in the league right now. Gordon Hayward, not enough is being said about him. Jaylen Brown's a really deserving all-star. Tatum,
He's been out the past few games.
Even when he was in, I'm still not sure. I'm still not 100% there on Tatum right now.
I do think that's the team in the East. If a team from the East is going to get 3 All-Stars, it's probably Boston.
I agree, but again, not sure I feel about Tatum right now. I think Hayward's underrated. Daniel Tice is incredibly underrated for his defense and just the way he spaces the floor. I think Boston's just a much more complete team.
All right, yeah, I'm going with the C's as well. That was a bad loss to the Pelicans, and I do think the 76ers do play better. I don't have a stat with me. I'll bring it next week. And I think we talked about this a couple weeks ago, when it's either just Ben Simmons and the rest of the 76ers or just Embiid and the rest of the 76ers. When Embiid and Simmons play together, they're exponentially worse. So again, they're without Embiid, so they're a pretty solid team right now. But I still have to go with the Celtics. I'm going with Boston on that one. So now to the game that you're all really here to hear about, the biggest game of the year, the biggest game of the week, obviously, but the biggest game of the year. Super Bowl 54, the San Francisco 49ers against the Kansas City Chiefs, Sunday, 5:30 p.m. on Fox. Tim, who do you have in the Super Bowl?
I have not been this excited for a Super Bowl matchup in years. And so when you look at the teams, 49ers have the better defense, they have the better run game, and they have the better coach right now. I think the run scheme that
Paul is visibly shaken by that final statement.
I think right now, Kyle Shanahan has been a better coach, and for that reason, I'm going to go with the Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes is going to take it. He's going to be the MVP of the Super Bowl, and have fun, boys.
All right, Paul, I wonder who you're going to pick.
I will note, Paul is currently wearing a San Francisco 49ers jersey.
And hat.
Just kidding. Paul's actually a diehard Chiefs fan, currently wearing a Chiefs sweatshirt and his patented Nebraska hat.
Well, I tell you what, it was a shame the Packers didn't make it. I was really rooting for them, but let's be honest, the 49ers are the better team, and really I feel like they're the better team in this one. I mean, they've got, as you mentioned, the coach, they've got the offense, they've got the defense, they've really got it all, and they've played really exceptional this season. So in my head, I want to go with the 49ers, but with my heart, I want to go with Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce and the Kansas City Chiefs.
Oh boy. Jared says Shakira plus J-Lo parentheses Chiefs.
Hips Hips don't lie, Marco.
I don't know what
Hips
that means.
Don't lie.
But
he was,
Jared's going with the Chiefs.
He's more interested in the halftime.
Yeah, I was talking to him
performance.
today. He said he's more interested in the halftime show than the game.
Jared is
And we openly shunned him in public because he deserved it.
Jared, he is a lover of he enjoys Latin dance music a lot.
Yeah.
Loves EDM.
He called Shakira the queen of Latin pop today.
Hey man, hips don't lie.
Will, do you have a pick for the game, by the way?
I don't know. I'm starting to agree with Jared, honestly. No, but I'm going to go with the 49ers for all the reasons I talked about earlier. I think the defense is better. I think Kyle Shanahan is going to have a more I don't say he's a better coach yet, but I think he's going to have a more diverse game plan. I think he's going to plan better than Reed. I think he's going to have some surprises we haven't seen yet. I wouldn't be surprised to see him pull off some Doug Peterson type antics.
Jimmy Garoppolo actually passes 9 times in a game.
This could happen. I think the 49ers are going to win.
All right. Well, it's all down to my pick. Kansas City Chiefs had a great season. San Francisco 49ers had a great season. But I have to go with the 49ers. I think they've got the better run game. Passing-wise, I don't think they need it as much. Obviously, Jimmy G's going to have to step up at certain times and deliver it, but I think he will. He's a Brady disciple. I think he's got it. He's a 2-time Super Bowl champion already. That's 2 more Super Bowls than Andy Reid has. I think the San Francisco defense is ridiculously good. I think regardless of what people think, I think they're still underrated. They're really great. Schematically, Kyle Shanahan's one of the best coaches of the 21st century, along with Andy Reid, Belichick, and a few other guys. But I got to go with Shanahan. I think he'll prepare better. Andy Reid, unfortunately, I think he's going to go full Reid again. The man has a full career of playoff disappointments. It's ridiculous. He chokes to a level that is unreal. I mean, whether it's with the Eagles or with the Chiefs, the man continues to go full Reid, and it's going to happen again. I'm sorry, but it's going to happen. There's not much more to say. I'm picking the 49ers. I should focus on the positive, that this is a really, really great team. Went 13-3 this season, and I got Jimmy G and Sam Fran winning their 6th Super Bowl title in franchise history. So that's my thoughts. All right. So that's all for episode 20 of the Unqualified Opinion Sports Podcast. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to leave your own unqualified opinions in the comments section down below.
Ring the bell.
Yep, get notified whenever we post a podcast or other videos possibly coming shortly. All right, once again, also go follow us on Spotify, our brand new Instagram account. And thank you so much for watching. Thank you for listening. For Will Byerman, Tim Seipel, Paul Hires, I'm Marko Jerkovic, the Croatian sensation, and we will see you all next time.